Okay, this lesson is on multiplying decimals. Okay, let's talk a little bit. What is 10 times 10? Hopefully you said 100. And what is 10 times 100? Well, that's 1,000. Remember, use mental math. 1 times 1 is 1, and then count the zeros. 1, 2, 3. And that's how many you need in your answer. So then what's 100 times 100? Well, that's 1, and there are 1, 2, 3, 4 zeros, which is 10,000. Well, what about if we multiplied a tenth times a tenth? What would that equal? That would equal 100th. So let me show that to you. Tools. Let's look at the calculator. There we go. So a tenth times a tenth, this is a tenth, times another tenth. And using our calculator, 0.1 times 0.1 is going to equal 100th. As you see, the 1 is in the hundredths place. So then what is a tenth times 100th? Well, that's going to be 1,000th. That is a tenth times 100th. So using our calculator, we have 1/10 times 100th, and that is to the thousandths place, 1,000th. Then if we do 100th times 100th, that's 0.01 times 0.01, that should be 10,000ths. So checking with our calculator, we have 100th times 100th equals, and count your decimal places. The first place value is the tenths, the hundredths, the thousandths, the 10,000ths. Now, there's something pretty neat. I don't know if you noticed or not. Oops, I didn't write the answer, did I? This one was a thousandth, and this one was 10,000ths. Okay, I don't know if you noticed or not, but when we multiply these two factors together, the tenth times the tenth, they each have one decimal place value. And in our answer, we ended up with 2 decimal place values. When we multiplied the tenth times the hundredth, there was 1 decimal place and 2, for a total of 3 decimal place values, and our answer had 3 decimal place values. Then when we did 1/10th times, when we did 100th times another 100th, we had 4 decimal place values. And in our answer, we also had 4. So a neat little trick is that when you're multiplying decimals, you can count how many decimal places there are, how many digits that are in the decimal place values. Count how many they are in the two factors that you're multiplying together, and that's how many you're going to have in your answer. So let's practice that. We're going to place the decimal point in the answers below. So in our first factor, you'll see that there are 2 decimal place values. And in our second factor, there are also 2 decimal place values. So when we count them, there's going to be a total of 4 decimal place values in our answer. So this is the answer. Let's place the decimal point. To place the decimal point, you always are going to start to the right of the last digit. Not at the front, but at the back. And we're going to do 4 place values. There's 1, 2, 3, and 4. So all of these digits need to be behind the decimal point, or to the right of the decimal point. That means the decimal point will go between the 2 and the 0. Make sure that you're underlining the number of place values that you need. It makes it a lot easier to see. When you place the decimal point, make the decimal nice and big. Okay, let's try the next example. In our first factor, there are 1, 2, 3, and the second factor, there's 2. So that's a total of 5 decimal place values. So let's place our decimal point. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All of these digits need to be behind the decimal point. So the decimal point goes between the 2 3's. Our next example, there are 2 decimal place values. Now, 2 is a whole number, and remember on whole numbers, the decimal point's invisible, but it's really behind the number. But there are no digits behind that decimal point, so there's only going to be a total of 2 decimal places in our answer. So count 1, 2, and place your decimal point. Now I want you to try these two on your own. Just pause the video and try them in your notes, and then come back and check your answers. Okay, let's see how you did. For this one, there are a total of 4 decimal place values. So 1, 2, 3, 4, which means our decimal point goes at the front. For the next problem, in our first factor, we have 4 decimal place values, and there are 2 in the second, which means we need a total of 6. But look what happens. 1, 2, 3, 4. We only have 4 digits, but we still need the 5 and the 6 decimal place values. So you're still going to draw the little lines, and then what digit do you think you're going to put here? That's right, the good old 0. So now these are all going to be our decimal digits, and the decimal point goes in the front. So to actually multiply with decimal numbers, we're going to take away the decimal point. Forget about it, take it out, make them whole numbers. Multiply, and then determine how many decimal places you need in your answer. So in our first problem, if we take away our decimal point, we have 71, the whole number 71. If we take out the decimal point, we have 215. So we're just going to multiply 71 times 215. So remember, the longer number goes on top. 215 times 71. Do your math. 5, 1, 2. Now we're moving over here to the tens place, so we need to put a 0 in the ones, and then multiply. 35, carry a 3. 7 plus 3 is 10, carry a 1. 14 plus 1 is 15. Add it up, we get 5, 6, 2, 5, and 1. All right, so now we have our answer. It's time to go and place our decimal points. So we have 1 decimal place value, 2, and 3. So we need a total of 3 decimal place values. So I'm going to come down to my answer here. There's 1, 2, 3. So my decimal will go between the 5 and the 2. So 7 and 1/10 times 2 and 15 hundredths equals 15 and 265 thousandths. Okay, let's do the next one. Same thing. If I take away my decimal point, my 4 and 3/10 becomes the whole number 43. If I take out my decimal point, I get 2,872. So we do the math. 2872 times 43. 3 times 2 is 6. There's 21. 24 plus 2 is 26. And 3 times 2 is 6 plus 2 is 8. I'm moving to my tens place, so I need a 0 in the ones place. Then I can start multiplying. 4 times 2 is 8. 4 times 7 is 28. Carry the 2. 4 times 8 is 32. Plus 2 is 34. Carry a 3. 4 times 2 is 8. Plus 3 is 11. Add it up. We get 6, 9, and this is 14. Carry a 1. 12 plus 1 is 13, carry a 1, makes this a 2 and a 1. Make sure that you're keeping everything lined up nice and neat so that it's easy to do your addition. Okay, now that we have the product here, we need to go and place our decimal points. So in our first factor, there's 1 digit in the decimal place values, and there are 3 in the second factor. So that's a total of 4. Come to our answer. We're going to start on the right. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, and the decimal point goes between the 2 and the 3. So pause the video and go ahead and work the next 2 problems on your own. Come back and check your answers. Okay, so when you multiplied these 2 digits together, you got 8784. You should have been multiplying 144 times 61. Now, counting up our digits in the decimal place values, there are 4 in the first factor, 2 in the second factor, so we need a total of 6. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and again, we still need 5 and 6. So in these spaces, you're going to put zeros, and then the decimal point will go in the front. For our second problem, if you take away the decimal points, you're going to be multiplying 527 times 1, which of course equals 527. Now to place the decimal point, count how many decimal places are in the first factor. There's only one. How many are in the second factor? 2. So that's a total of 3 decimal places that we need. So start to the right, here's 1, 2, 3, then your decimal point. And this also works for word problems. Oranges are on sale for 79 cents a pound. If Mary buys 2 3/10 pounds of oranges, how much will she pay? Okay, first of all, make sure with word problems you always write the expression first. And how do we know that this is multiplication? Because we're looking for the total. How much will she pay? We want to know the total that she's going to pay. So we know it's multiplication. So it's going to be 79 cents times 2.3 pounds. Again, do what we just did. Take away the decimal points. Make them whole numbers. And it's going to give us 79 times 23. Do the math. 27. 21 plus 2 is 23. Move to the tens place, so we need a 0 on the ones. 2 times 9 is 18. We're going to carry a 1. This is 14 plus 1 is 15. Add them up. 7, 11, carry a 1. 7 plus 1 is 8. All right, we have 18, 17. Now we're ready to place our decimal point. Come back over here. There are 2 decimal numbers in the decimal place values, and there's 1 here. That's a total of 3. So come 1, 2, 3 decimal. Now we are talking about money, so this situation is a little bit different. Because we are talking about money, we have to round to the nearest cent, which is the hundreds place. 79 cents, hundreds place. This is the hundreds place right here. So when we write our answer, it's going to be $1.80 something cents. We're going to look at the digit behind it in the thousands place. This 7 is going to round the 1 up to a 2. Remember, if it's 5 or greater, you round up. If it's less than 5, it stays the same. So our answer is $1.82. That's how much Mary will pay. And let's check it. We are correct.